Marine Corps Base Hawaii remembers its Medal of Honor recipients of the 3rd Marine Regiment. During World War II, 4 Marines received our nation's highest honor for conspicuous gallantry in the face of extreme danger. Sgt Robert A Owens of 1-3, on November 1st, 1943, during the Battle of Bougainville, unhesitatingly determined to charge a Japanese 75mm gun bunker from the front, he immediately charged into the mouth of the steadily firing cannon and entered the emplacement through the fire port, driving the gun crew out the rear door and ensuring their destruction before he himself was killed. Sgt Herbert J Thomas of 1-3, on November 7th, 1943, during the Battle of Bougainville, although several of his men were struck by enemy bullets, in the face of severe hostile machine gun fire, Sgt. Thomas and his men fearlessly pressed on. After he had thrown a grenade into a Japanese emplacement, when the grenade struck the vines and fell back into the midst of the group, Sgt. Thomas deliberately flung himself upon it to smother the explosion, valiantly sacrificing his life for his comrades. Corporal Luther Skaggs Jr. of 3-3, on July 21st to the 22nd, 1944, during the Battle of Guam, he held the section through intense fire for a distance of 200 yards, to a position from which to deliver effective coverage of the assault on the strategic cliff. Valiantly defending this vital position against strong enemy counterattacks during the night, PFC Skaggs was critically wounded when a Japanese grenade exploded in his foxhole, shattering the lower part of his leg. Quick to act, he applied an improvised tourniquet and gallantly returned the enemy's fire with his rifle and hand grenades for 8 hours, later crawling unassisted to the rear to continue the fight until the Japanese had been annihilated. PFC Leonard F. Mason of 2-3, July 22, 1944, during the Battle of Guam, PFC Mason, alone and entirely on his own initiative, climbed out of the gully and moved parallel to it towards the rear of the enemy position. Although fired upon immediately by hostile riflemen from a higher position and wounded repeatedly in the arm and shoulder, PFC Mason grimly pressed forward and had just reached his objective when hit again by a burst of enemy machine gun fire, causing critical wound to which he later succumbed. During the Vietnam War, 5 Marines distinguished themselves and made the ultimate sacrifice for their country and the defense of the Marines to their left and right. Staff Sgt Peter S Connor of 2-3, February 25, 1966. During a firefight in Quang Nang Province, Staff Sergeant Connor maneuvered his unit under intermittent enemy small arms fire. After spotting an enemy spider hole, he readied a fragmentation grenade, realizing the firing mechanism was faulty and the fuse already activated. With only precious seconds to spare and taking into account the safety of the Marines around him, he chose to hold the grenade against his body in order to absorb the terrific explosion and to spare his comrades. PFC James Anderson Jr. of 2-3, February 28, 1967. During a firefight northwest of Cam Lo, PFC James Anderson's platoon was the lead element and had advanced only about 200 meters when they were brought under extreme intense enemy small arms and automatic weapons fire. 20 meters from the enemy position, under heavy fire, an enemy grenade landed near him. Unhesitatingly, he pulled it into his chest to save the Marines around him. Lance Corporal William R. Prom of 3-3, February 9, 1969. During Operation Taylor Common, and coming under attack from enemy automatic weapons fire and grenade attack, Lance Corporal Prom assumed control of one of his machine guns and began to return fire. Disregarding his own safety, he began to assault the enemy's position. When one of the Marines in his platoon was injured, he rushed to protect him, while still having been injured himself. Then, while standing in full view of his enemy, he accurately directed fire of his support elements until he was mortally wounded. Inspired by his selfless devotion to duty, the Marines launched an assault and destroyed the enemy. PFC Ronald L. Cocker, 3-3, March 24, 1969. While leading a patrol in Quang Tri Province, he encountered 5 enemy soldiers. PFC Cocker's squad aggressively pursued them to a cave. As the squad neared the cave, they came under intense hostile fire, seriously wounding one Marine and forcing the others to take cover. Disregarding his safety, he moved across the fire-swept terrain towards his companion. Although wounded by enemy small arms fire, he continued to crawl across the hazardous area and skillfully threw a hand grenade into the enemy position, suppressing the hostile fire sufficiently to enable him to reach the wounded Marine. Severely wounded, but undaunted, he refused to abandon his comrade. As he moved forward towards friendly lines, 2 more enemy grenades exploded near him, inflicting still further injuries. Concerned only for the safety of his comrade, PFC Cocker, with extreme effort, continued to crawl and pull the wounded Marine with him. PFC Bruce W. Carter of 2-3, August 7, 1969. During combat operations in Quang Tri Province, PFC Carter and his fellow Marines were pinned down by vicious crossfire. With complete disregard for his own safety, he stood in full view of North Vietnamese army soldiers and delivered devastating volumes of fire against the enemy. Shouting directions to the Marines around him, PC Carter then commenced leading them when he observed a hostile grenade land between him and his companions. Fully aware of his actions, but determined to protect the men following him, he unhesitatingly threw himself over the grenade, absorbing the full effects of its detonation with his body. He gave his life for the Marines around him. All of these Marines showed indomitable courage, selfless devotion to duty, and upheld the highest traditions of the Marine Corps and the U.S. Naval Service. They all gallantly served their nation.